I love my former boss, Dr. Biden, very much, unlike maybe the Fetterman staff. My heart breaks for how clearly frustrated she is. I know how badly she wants to rescue his reputation for history. After all, this was their life. Sadly, I agree with Selena's assessment. Their team has always struggled with being 10 steps behind modern, authentic, and strategic communication strategy, or simply reading, absorbing public sentiment accurately enough for the Bidens to be effective at public communication and media relations. Michael, again, you're such a valuable voice in trying to set this right for history and for the Democratic Party because you're brilliant. You've been in government. You've been a journalist, and you understand the whole thing as sophistication. But you're also honest about it. So, talk about how you experience the View appearance and what you've been thinking and hearing from others today about how people who do care about the Bidens are reacting to the appearance.
Um, she jumped in and answered that question for him, which was something she was doing more and more frequently in the White House. Um, I think even once during the campaign, the 2020 campaign, she kind of pulled him away from the pool. Like, we would go up the steps to the plane in Newcastle, the pool would be waiting there. And she did that a couple of times at the White House when we would go out to the South Lawn, and she'd kind of pull his arm and lead him away. There is an instinctive protective nature. She clearly knew he was not answering or satisfying that question, and she clearly had something she wanted to say about the authors, which she didn't really say. But the cocooning part, did she create the cocoon? No, she didn't create the cocoon. Um, Over time, the cocoon, I think, was more responsive to her. Or one of the big things I think was important that's sort of overlooked. Jill Biden's chief of staff or body person, scheduler, now chief of staff for the last 15 years, who has been by her side, who helps her with her books interviews, for Anthony Bernal, along with Annie Tomasini, the president's traveling chief of staff, both who are with the Bidens now. Good people with good hearts, and I'm sure good intentions. Um, you know, they controlled the cocoon around the president. They controlled access. They were very rigid about access, the manifests for trips, who and how much time, who
Let,
am
let, let, Michael, let me stop you for just 1 second because you're saying something I want to highlight. Okay, but thank you. You're doing amazing.
okay.
Name the two people again. Just say their names again.
Annie Tomasini and Anthony Bernal.
Okay, so I've not read the Jake Tapper. Tell me that guy's name again.
Neither have I.
Alex Thompson.
Alex Thompson. Thank you. I keep thinking Jake Thompson, who used to be a reporter for the Kansas City Star. I've not read it, but I could virtually guarantee you that those two will be named in the book as the leaders of the cover up. I can guarantee. I can guarantee you. I can
And
guarantee
I
you.
have no
And
idea. But look, to be in the traveling bubble with the Bidens was a very big deal. And I was
yeah,
honored and privileged that they trusted me enough to bring me in from the very beginning. And I loved every minute of it. I loved Anthony and Annie like family. But look, the truth is, it was often they did him a disservice, whether they were micromanaging how to put him on the plane. I texted Annie the night that they left for Israel, to right after the October 7th massacre, when he went to Israel, and said the next picture of him for the next 12 hours as you're traveling with all the B-roll coverage is going to be him trying to salute, but he can't because you're putting him through the belly of the plane. Those were the kind of micromanaging decisions. And he looked ridiculous going up into the belly of the plane where you couldn't see his face, and he'd just have to walk up more steps. So those were some of the things that there's plenty of examples of those. But look, Annie and Anthony were with them all through COVID. We all lived together in Wilmington for the last few months of the 2020 campaign. We were all in the traveling bubble from day one of the inauguration on. And look, let's take simple other places like the Office of Legislative Affairs. There were times when the Office of Legislative Affairs, trying to do their job, trying to get member of Congress time with the president, or even signing pens, a signing pen from the president. And they couldn't, and they refused, and they couldn't get them. There was simple things like that access was controlled and limited by.
So you've named the two people who I say with great confidence, having not read the book, those two people are going to be named essential to the cover-up. I'm quite certain.
They were also in Rehoboth for the last final week. It was just them who were allowed.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.